The first thing that I do whenever I'm trying to figure out how to map out a sales process is, very first thing is, number one, what's the first thing I do, right? We get a new lead, right? Let's do this in terms of, say you're always referral based, and you're trying to, say maybe you're probably going into the market of buying aged leads, and you're going to buy a whole bunch of them and then fire off communications automatically so you don't have to call all the time. Then let's map out that process, right? So we get a new lead in the door, right? New lead is the first step. Number two, what happens after, new lead comes in and we send out text messages immediately, right? Say we go ahead and shoot out text messages. Number two is probably going to be a response, because I want to be able to differentiate the people that were new versus the people that actually responded. Okay. Number three, after they respond, then you start texting back or call them back or whatever the case. Most likely what happens in automation world is new lead, they respond. And then once they respond, you try to push them to an appointment, right? Appointment booked. And then obviously we have different situations where appointment no-showed, right? Or canceled or whatever the case. We'll just leave it at no-show. After say they show up to the appointment, I talk with them, right? Maybe I don't quote them right away, but it's like I need like a holding cell to follow up with them and quote them again. Try to quote them again in, a week or whatever that looks like, right? So appointment booked, no show, and then maybe spoke with, right? And I use spoke with as like a holding cell. I spoke with them, but there was no result, right? They didn't take the next step in my sales process, which would be quoted, right? And after you get them quoted, maybe if you're PNC, maybe you've got an X date, right? An MVR or policy renewal. Maybe you just want to keep it simple. After you quote them, follow for 30 days. And then we'll say quoted into, maybe there's like a long-term follow-up. This could look like the X dates. This could look like multiple different things. If your life insurance might just be a follow-up thing, into, after we follow up, then we closed, right? So this would be my prospecting pipeline, essentially, right? And now that I have this mapped out, now I've got an idea of what I want to send. So a new lead comes in. Let's do like, let's put this over here. So a new lead comes in and we want to fire off like the new lead campaign, right? You have a new lead campaign in your system already. I'm just going to use this as examples. And then after they respond, so I'm just going to go through each stage and figure out what do I want to happen at each point here, right? So new lead, let's see, then they respond. And after they respond, then I want maybe a notification to agent to respond again, to respond back, right? And book appointment, whatever the case, right? So then that's going to happen. You can have a notification set up to where it's going to fire off and let you know, hey, you have a new lead that just responded to this campaign. Time to get in conversation with them, right? The system actually has the ability to automate that. You can actually set up triggers, which we'll get to in a second, but set up a trigger that reads a positive response from this new lead campaign. Based on a positive response, we want to send them a appointment booking request, right? Appointment booking campaign. So maybe instead of notification to agent, we say new lead campaign. Now we have appointment booking campaign. Maybe we fire that off, right? And after the appointment's booked, then obviously we want to make sure we we want to make sure that they show up to that appointment, right? So let's do appointment reminder campaign. I'm not going to put campaign because it overlap. Maybe we go appointment reminder campaign, right? So new lead comes in, we fire off the new lead campaign. They respond, and once they respond, I put them into an automated appointment booking campaign. We just make that happen automatically, and I'll show you exactly how. After they book an appointment, we want them to make sure they show up to that appointment. So I want the appointment reminder sequence and campaign to fire off. And then maybe if they don't show up to that appointment, maybe I update their pipeline stage and we do a appointment no-show. And if I put them in the no-show, then I want a appointment rebooking campaign to go out. Okay. And then spoke with, so after I speak with them, maybe we want just like a follow-up. Maybe this action here is just following up once a week, maybe. Follow up once a week. We'll just put that there. A better way, an easier way to kind of think about this maybe would be new lead. We'll just say initial communications. And I always do this on a piece of paper, right? So I always map this out on a piece of paper, each stage of my process, and then what I want to happen at each stage. So maybe let's see, appointment booking. We want book in appointments, right? And then we want to appointment reminder, and then appointment rebooking. We're not going to say that these are all campaigns just yet, because we can get to that in a second. Follow up once a week, right? And then quoted. And then maybe after we quote them, I want to follow up for, 30 days. So let's do this. Go 30-day follow up to close, right? And so it looks like we might even have a duplicate in here. Now that I'm mapping this out, now that I'm looking at it, okay, follow up here, it's kind of duplicated there. So if they're in the quoted stage, I know that they're being followed up with if I have a campaign that's doing that, right? So maybe I don't need that one there. And my sales process just got a little shorter. But let's look at closed. What happens after we close them? Then I want to say thank you, send email with contact information, upsell other lines, other products, whatever the case, right? Maybe we want to put them into the company CRM. A couple different things that we want to happen here, right? So we can make all this happen. So now that I have it mapped out, right? This is what I'm thinking about is okay, my process looks like this. Then based on each stage of this process, I want this to happen over here, right? So based on this, now let's look at what we have. We have, the initial communication. Okay, new lead comes in, we have initial communication. So if it's an aged lead, then I would probably want to put them into like a reactivation, right? Because the new lead outreach would be something like, I just saw your information come through and I'd be happy to help you out, right? If you buy an aged lead, it might be, hey, I saw that you were looking for this information at one point, but we never got a chance to connect. I'm already seeing that I can help you out. Let's just jump on a call. So those two different types, depending on where the lead is coming from, is going to determine what kind of communication you send out, right? Because it has to be congruent. If I've learned anything in the lead generation world, over the last 6 years, it's that the fortune is in the congruency of the follow-up, right? Follow-up is obviously king, but the congruency of that follow-up, because your follow-up could do nothing if it's not congruent to the experience that lead had coming through the door in the first place. Okay, so we already give you a new lead campaign. We give you a appointment reminder campaign. We give you a reactivation campaign. So new lead campaign for new leads, new referrals, things like that, or a reactivation campaign for old leads. And then going into appointment booking, and the appointment reminder, and a 30-day follow-up once you get them quoted. Right now, let's look at how we can make this happen in the system. Okay, now that I have this mapped out, how do I translate this and put it into the system?